Law doesn't require this great intellect. There's another human being, and they're gone. Because
He walked in smiling, not a flicker of nerves, not a trace of hesitation. Terrence Howard Jr., 15 years old, pushed through that courtroom door like he was stepping into a room that already belonged to him. Chin lifted, fingers throwing signs, a grin that hadn't read the room yet, and the room had read him immediately. Every eye in that gallery locked onto that smile. Mouths tightened, bodies shifted. Somewhere in the rows behind the prosecution table, a woman who hadn't slept properly in 2 years watched this boy walk in like nothing, and her jaw went rigid. That woman had buried her son, and the boy still hadn't stopped smiling. To understand what made that entrance so devastating, you have to go back to where this started. February 24th, 2024, a Sunday night on Margie Drive. A juvenile fight that spilled into the street, escalated past words, past shoving, and into gunfire. When officers responded to the flood of 911 calls, they found 14-year-old Traquavis Holloway on the ground. He was gone before anyone could change that. The shooter was 13 years old. They caught him a short distance away, still running. His name was Terrence Howard Jr. And from that night forward, 2 families entered a legal process that would consume the next 2 years of their lives. One waiting for justice, one waiting to come home. That wait ended on March 25th, 2026. The morning of sentencing, the courtroom filled the way rooms fill before something irreversible. Quietly, carefully, everyone aware of the weight already in the air. Terrence's mother took her seat in the front row of the gallery, and she had spent 2 years holding a specific belief close, that today would be the day her son walked out with her. That belief had kept her standing through every hearing, every delay, every moment the system moved slower than her grief. She sat with her hands folded and her eyes forward, and she held on to it one more time. Across the aisle, Traquavis's family settled in with a stillness that said everything. Not the stillness of peace, the stillness of people who had already survived the worst and came here not for comfort, but for the one thing the court could still give them: truth. The bailiff called order, the room rose, and the door opened. That smile, that is what the gallery could not get past. Not the charges, not the 2-year wait. In that moment, when Terrence Howard Jr. stepped through the door loose-shouldered and grinning, the thing that cut deepest was how unbothered he looked. His attorney leaned over and said something quietly. Terrence nodded, took his seat. The smile didn't disappear right away. It faded slowly, the way confidence fades when a room refuses to give it back. Before Judge Edward Lukemeyer spoke, Terrence's mother stood. She walked to the podium with the particular composure of someone who has rehearsed every word and still isn't ready to say them. She held the stand with both hands, and she told the court that her son had been scared that night, that he believed his life was in danger, that a 13-year-old boy in the middle of violence made a decision no child should ever have to make. She asked them to see who he was, not just what he did. For a moment, the room held that, and because there is something in a mother's voice that asks to be believed regardless of everything else. But Traquavis's family was in that room too, absorbing every word. People who also had a son, who also knew exactly who he was and who he would have become before a Sunday night on Margie Drive ended that future entirely. 2 mothers sitting 20 feet apart, both of them right about their sons, both of them wrecked. When the prosecution finished, the silence that followed wasn't empty. It had texture. It pressed. Judge Lukemeyer looked up from his papers. He looked at Terrence, and Terrence looked back. And for the first time since walking through that door, something behind his eyes shifted. His leg was moving under the table. That involuntary bounce, the body's only outlet when everything else is locked down. Fast, arrhythmic, uncontrollable. Then Lukemir began to speak, and the leg went still. Youth does not excuse taking a life. The words landed flat and final, the way a gavel does. The law doesn't require this great intellect. There's another human being, and they're gone because of you. Across the room, Trequavis's mother closed her eyes. One tear moved down her face. She didn't stop it. The judge didn't stop either. You didn't just steal this boy's car or punch him in the mouth or whatever. You stopped his heart from beating forever. Stopped his heart from beating forever. Not a wound, not a scar, not something carried and slowly, painfully healed. Forever. The word sat in that room and did not move. You went from A to Z in what you did. You took another human being's life. Terrence Howard Jr. was completely still now. The hands flat on the table, the leg not moving, the smile long gone. Whatever had walked through that door an hour ago had been replaced by something that looked, for the first time, like a boy beginning to understand the size of what surrounded him. Judge Lukemir reached for the sentence. Guilty, manslaughter, 2 counts of aggravated assault, possession of a weapon during a felony. The charges came one at a time, each one settling before the next arrived. And then, the number, 35 years. Minimum 32 served before any possibility of release. The room didn't gasp, it absorbed, the way a body absorbs a blow, not dramatically, just deeply, somewhere it can't be unfelt. Terrence Howard Jr. did not move. He is 15 years old today. Do the math, 32 years from now, he will be 47. He will not have a 16th birthday outside a cell. No first apartment, no 20s. None of the years where a person figures out who they are, makes their mistakes, builds something. When that door eventually opens, if it opens, the world will have moved entirely past him. In the gallery, his mother came apart. The sound she made had no shape, not a scream, not a cry. Something underneath both of those. Something that surfaces only when there is nothing left between a person and the truth. Down the aisle, Trequavis's family exhaled. Long, slow, uneven. Not relief. The absence doesn't fill. The chair at the table is still empty, but the truth had been spoken aloud with the full weight of the law behind it. And that was the only thing this room still had left to give them. 2 families walked out of that courthouse carrying entirely different kinds of permanent. One lost a son to the ground. One lost a son to a sentence. And Trequavis Holloway, 14 years old, a life still becoming itself, gets neither. Subscribe to for more court verdict stories.